Hey there, everyone. Laurelbeard here. It's always fun to come up with new card making techniques, but what about the old ones that are super good that we forget? I am collaborating with 4 other YouTubers and friends, and we are all going to share 3 of our favorite card making techniques that we often forget about. So by the time you watch all 5 videos, you will have 15 card making techniques that are tried and proven and well loved by us that we forget about that we really shouldn't. So do you want to know what my 3 are? Well, let's get to it. The first thing is acrylic block stamping. I don't know why I don't do this more often. I have square, rectangles, and round acrylic blocks, and all I do is basically take some ink and I just press it onto the acrylic block like so, and then I spritz it with a little bit of water, and then I stamp with it. And I am using watercolored cardstock. Anytime I'm using a lot of water, you need to use the specialty watercolor cardstock, otherwise it'll pill your paper all up and it will just be icky. So if you've ever tried this technique and it didn't work, it probably was your paper. There are many, many inexpensive watercolor cardstocks on the market and in your big box stores. So I'm going to set that aside to let it dry, but I just did 2 very calming colors. Now I'll go in with sea glass. This is one of my favorite colors, and I'll just press that right onto the acrylic block and just show you that you can even make a beautiful background with just one color. So I spritz the block with a little bit of water, and now you can see through the block, so you can see all of that ink moving all around, and it's quite neat. And when I pick it up, there's a big puddle over there to the left-hand side. So I just kind of turn my paper a little bit until I get some drip marks and they look good. And then I'm going to set that aside to dry and see what happens. You can also create a rainbow or just a multicolored one. Just leave a little bit of gap in between the colors as you put them down. So when you spray the water, it has time, a little bit of space to move the ink around on your block. So I just took 4 different colors here. I'll give it a generous spritz with your water. You could also use a perfect pearls mixture and get a really get a really shiny look too if you want to. But here I just am kind of moving it around. You can use the acrylic block as your eyes. You can see what's going on underneath. So I moved the acrylic block up and down, and then I was left with that. I still had some of that ink left on the paper, on the block, so I gave it one more little spritz, and then I'll go ahead and do that and let that dry and see how these two, the twofer, if you will, how that turns out once I give it a time for everything to dry. Another thing is a round acrylic block. You can make a moon, a sun. In this case, I'm just going to make a bunch of little circles for a background. So you can do basically 2nd or 3rd generation stamping with your acrylic block by simply not adding water in between your presses. So here I added a new color, and I'll just ink it up with water and press, 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 press. And you can even drag your block around to get some really fun textures. Okay, here's a look at all the panels now that they're dry. We're going to turn some of these into the cards at the end of the video, but I still have 2 more techniques to share with you that I love that I often forget about. We can make some really cool backgrounds with the different shapes of your acrylic blocks and get some really beautiful color blends and variations. This, of course, is my favorite. I love all the hard lines on there from the water drips. So cool. I love ink smooshing, and I especially like doing it with my trash. This is some plastic packaging from a stamp set that I just pulled out of the trash, and I'm basically using this the same way I did as my acrylic block, but this time I can push the ink around through the plastic and actually move it, and I can also see where I'm going to actually ink up the paper. So I'm just going to continue to do this. I'll do this with 2 different colors here. So once I get the ink down there and I like it, I'll go ahead and bring in another color. Just press the ink directly onto my garbage or plastic packaging or anything that you have. And then I'll carefully look where I want to put it and then just start pushing it around with my finger. So I can basically get the ink where I want it, give or take. You might get a couple splatters depending on how much water you use. But I just think this is a really cool look because you can get really fun techniques just by pushing the ink around with your finger. And you can do this with as many colors as you want. Now I'm working off of a glass surface. It's very easy to clean as I go, which is what you can see here. I do have a coupon code to this glass mat. If you're interested, I'll link it in the description below. I do get a lot of questions about that. So I'll go ahead and let that dry. And then I'll do one more with just a very soft color. I'll start off with Cotton Candy, which is a very light pink. It was almost too light to pick up on camera. And then I'll go in with the red. But anyway, you can see I can push it where I want it to go. And using packaging, or in my case, trash. First of all, I am recycling garbage. Hi, I know we're big into that these days. And I just like that I can see where I want it to go. So I just love that I can just push this stuff around with my finger. It's like one of those little toys that kids have, those fidgets or those little squishy things. Well, I like pushing the ink through the plastic thing onto cardstock. That's my fidgety, squishy thing. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I hope so. All right, here's a look at these now that they're dry. I just love being able to push all the different colors around and put them pretty much where I want them to be. So now it's time to show you my third technique I often forget about, and we're actually going to use it in a couple of the cards right now. All right, so I'm going to grab this and just trim out the little rectangle there, and we'll go ahead and use this on the card. I'm also going to be reaching into my magic mug to pull out different elements. If you have no idea what my magic mug is, I finally filmed a video and shared all my secrets. I'll link it in the description below. This is a good time to use all of my colored cardstock I've hoarded over the years. And here comes my third technique I often forget about and love, and that is edge distressing. There are a lot of tools out there, but you can just simply go to your kitchen and get a serrated knife. Now be careful, it is a knife. Do not cut yourself, but you can just distress up the edges as long as it's a serrated knife very easily. Or you can go buy one of the tools that they have out there, but you have a knife in your kitchen, so just go get it. Just use caution. And then I'll go ahead and assemble the card. So I'm using my favorite glue here, which is Bearly Arts glue, and I'll go ahead and glue all the pieces down. And it's just that simple. A serrated knife and edge distressing. I do not know why I don't do this often. I love the look of it. I could have even distressed around the edges of the card base if I wanted to, and I just think it gives a really cool look. I always use an acrylic block to hold panels down in place for just a few seconds so the glue can, absorb into the card base there. And then we'll just go ahead and glue everything together. At this point, you could use double-sided tape if you want to. The sky's the limit. You could add sequins, water droplets, or paint droplets, whatever you want to do, but I'm keeping this fairly simple. And then I'll do one more card when I'm done. So pulling all of the elements out of my magic mug really made pulling this card together, in a whiz. And I just love the look of that distressed edge. It is so simple, yet so striking. All right, I'm going to go ahead and edge distress the entire base on this particular card here. Again, using the knife, I don't know how to say it. I'm just, going back and forth around the edge of the paper. That's just cutting up that paper. That's really all I'm doing. And if I get little cut marks in there like I just did, I don't care. I think it adds to the look of the card panel. So once I've gone ahead and distressed this with my knife, use caution. I cannot say that enough. I grab this image out of my magic mug, and this time I'm going to use some double-sided foam tape here. This roll I've had for God knows how long. It's as big as my head, this roll. And I'm slowly working my way through it here. But I like this particular double-sided tape because you don't need scissors. You just tear it off with your fingers and get to going. Get to taping. And then I'll just pop that up on the panel, which I like. I didn't really like all the circles on that panel, but using a big image like that covered up some of the circle shapes, and it really tied everything together nicely. So even if you make a background you're not too crazy about, don't throw it away. You can cover it up with large images. You can cut it up into word dies or different strips. You can possibly save it even if you didn't like it, which I did here. And that completes this card. We're going to go ahead and glue that down to a card base and call this a day. And the whole edge distress look on that whole card panel is super cool. Let's look at the two cards and then we'll look at them up close here. But here's what I made in my video. Acrylic block stamping, smooshing, and edge distressing. Those are the three techniques I often forget about. Now, the next person on the hop is Tiffany. I am linking her video right here, so head on over and see what her three techniques are that she often forgets about. And I've listed everybody that's in the hop in the description below for you. So by the time you're done, if you do this hop, you'll have 15 cool techniques that we think are amazing. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.